It is live.
Podcasting via the World Wide Web and sponsored by Mark Rycroft's Sobo Liquors at Broadway and Evans. This is a South Stands Denver Digital Town Hall with me, Colin Daniels, and your host, John Reedy.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Another video show, South Stands Supplemental 2 is what this is. We're recording from the Sportsgeek studios and the south of Denver studios, as you can see, my lovely home here. Colin, you can still hear me all right, right?
I hear you great, man, and you sound fantastic. Is that a new microphone?
It is. I got the same mic that I used to record the video at the studio, so it works really well. So I figured I would just buy the same one. So.
Well, I'm pleased, and I see you have a lovely glass of wine.
I do. I've been drinking a lot of wine. It's a different kind of buzz, as you can attest.
Understand?
It's what?
Yes, yeah, it's a different deal altogether. It's a different deal altogether than beer. Yeah, it's a whole different feeling. It's like kind of like the difference between smoking weed and taking mushrooms. It's two very different highs.
It really is.
I visited Cochino Tacos this evening, and I told the owner, Johnny Bolin, that's his name, Johnny Bolin, the blood of the city, that this is the last time I will mention his establishment on the podcast until he steps up and sponsors us. So look for a potential sponsorship coming very, very soon with Johnny Bolin and the fabulous Cochino Tacos.
Does he call himself the blood of the city? I mean, he should, right?
No, I call him blood of the city. I don't think he
does. He understand what that means?
Oh yeah, Johnny is really, really dialed in. In fact, he has listened to our podcast before. Back when we had one Tommy Nalen on. Because he and Tommy share an alma mater.
Oh, that's like some Boston fucking place or something like that.
Boston University or Boston College or,
I
don't know.
I just speaking of that off the top of my head, I know we've got some things to discuss. I was thinking about college sports, and CSU hired a new coach, and it's always such fuckery when this goes on. There's like one coach did a horrible job, but still he gets paid $10 million to leave. And then everyone's worried about the new guy coming in. And then the new guy comes in and they probably can't pay him that much because they just paid the other guy $10 million to leave. And it's somebody that sucks. And what I realized is now I can't stand CU. I think their fans are irrational a-holes. But what I've discovered through the recent CSU news is that CSU fans are even weirder and more irrational than CU fans.
They're the little siblings of the Colorado college sports. I would even say that they are in many ways the little siblings of Air Force. And they really, really get their tits in a ringer. They're so fucking defensive about being from Fort Collins and not from Boulder, and from being kind of the second-rate school here along the Front Range, that they get really, really weird. And it's really weird to me that they spent all that fucking money to build a giant new football stadium for a team that isn't even part of a major conference. Yeah. It's strange to me.
I mean, I guess you have to attract more people, but yeah, they're really crazy. Like they act like it matters. And granted, CU is kind of a minor player too, but it's like, this is like glorified high school ball. And I don't know why they get so upset and so into it. To each his own. That's fine if that's what you're into, but I just don't get it.
Get it either. And it would seem to me that those schools don't need fucking football programs. I mean, I guess that's what drives college sports, and that's what drives the dollars. And I get that, but I like DU's approach. They really, really stress and emphasize hockey, and they really emphasize basketball, and they've got a nice, small, loyal fan base. And in the case of hockey, they win national championships, and they've got long historic rivalries. DU had football at one time, but I think they've made the right choice to sidestep it. Of all of the sports in college sports, football is the hardest to pretend that your student athletes are actually students who actually care about graduating from college. It's such a farce, and it's such a fallacy.
You know what isn't a farce and a fallacy is my current fantasy football run that I'm on, and I promised that I would tell everybody about it. So I think I'd like to talk about it. That's all right with you.
Well, please do.
So 5 leagues, four championship games.
Jesus Christ, dude! I've never had a year like that.
It's quite a year. I got some very tough competition. It's a rematch from 2 years ago with me and the Monday Mommy in the South Stands League. It's going to be a real dogfight. And the Legal Weed Melvin Bowl, our sometimes fill-in producer Bronco Jeff, and I got to battle him. And then I got to take on Scott Stafford in the regular Denver City League. So I got my work cut out for me.
Captain Fantasy himself. Yeah, you absolutely do have your work cut out for you. And I am in 4 leagues also, and I have 1 third place game left. That's all I've got. Now I'm steamrolling bitches in fantasy hockey right now, and I feel really good about my prospects also in fantasy NBA. And I had an exciting year in baseball, but football, man, I've lost my touch. I need to listen to more footballguys.com podcasts with Cecil Lammy and Sigmund Bloom.
That's probably what you got to do. As long as you've got your NFL betting down, that's all that matters, because you're going to need that to make sure your betting's going.
And I don't. I've not been performing well on Sundays, although I'm pleased to report that things are going very well with my NBA prognostications.
Mm-hmm.
Typical night, I'm betting 5 bets, whether that's an over, under, or a spread. And I'm running at right around 58%, which is good. So I win a little bit more than I lose, which helps me make Sundays. So right now I bet at bovada.com, and usually it's about a 10% vig. So if I think the Broncos should be favored by 6.5, I'm going to pay what they call minus 110. So I have to pay $110 to win $100. It's about a 10% vig. And I expect that'll be roughly the same as what it is once Colorado has legalized sports betting venues here. And from what I understand, the way it's going to be set up, as far as Blackhawk and Central City are concerned, is you will place a wager. You can place a wager on a phone app, but you won't be able to cash out without actually visiting the casino. So I'll be curious to see how that works out, because the one thing that's weird about Bovada is on the times when I have cashed out, and I actually have cashed out twice, which is awesome. But you have to wait a very, very long time for your check to come. And when your check does come, it's a weird check drawn off like some Chinese bank. So you take it to your bank, and assuming they're willing to accept it, which my personal bank wasn't, but my business's bank did it. You'd obviously rather go to a window and be handed cash by an attractive young lady in a little costume than to have to deal with a Chinese check.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that, when we had Nate Lundy on a couple weeks ago on the actual podcast, he's a big gambling proponent, and we didn't even talk about it then. And we should have brought it up then, because he knows a lot about it. But that's going to be great. I just think that they're not going to have anything like in Denver, right? You have to go up to Central City to do it.
The latest thing that I heard, and the answer to your question in general is yes. Okay. The casino lobby is powerful enough that they made sure that you weren't going to be able to go to a window at the Blake Street Tavern and bet on a game right here in town. Yeah. However, from what I understand, there are partnerships brewing. Now, of course, it's not until next May that they actually begin to allow wagering in Colorado. And then we'll have to see how the chips fall. But from what I understand, partnerships are already forming between some of the major sports bars in lower downtown Denver and some of the casinos in Blackhawk and Central City, where you might be able to go to a kiosk and you're actually placing your wager through the casino, which is in the hills, but you might be able to place that wager at a kiosk at the Blake Street Tavern or at the sports column. And it's funny. The sports column is owned partially by Jim Armstrong, who used to write for the Post, but got fired from working at the Post because he bet on sports locally, which was at the time obviously illegal. So that's kind of ironic if Jim Armstrong can allow you to accept wagers in his establishment.
Well, maybe it'll be like, kind of like DraftKings or like if you made a bet in Vegas last year, and then you just have to get your tickets and or on your app and then take it up there just to get you up there. Maybe you can bet all the time down here and then go up there to do it. Still, it's just like, it's so far, and it would be great just to be able to like go somewhere, drink some beer, bet on a game, and then, take a lift home. You know what I mean?
Watch it on a giant television set. And speaking of which, we will have the opportunity to participate in just such activity coming up here the first week in January. We've got our big boys trip to Las Vegas for Wild Card Weekend, which is a great time to go. You've got 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday, quick and dirty. You can get up to the counter and place your wagers and watch these games. And it's going to be an absolute blast. I know all of us are chomping at the bit to get out there. It's going to be a ton of fun.
It is going to be a ton of fun. I like gambling. It's fun. And it really, being in a casino with a ton of people that are rooting on whatever, like they don't have to be a Browns fan, but they could be gambling on the fact that, the Browns are going to cover the spread, and that's why they're excited. It's just the everyone's so into it for whatever reason. You could be a fan of the team or you're just a fan of money, so that's why I like it.
Yeah. And we watched last year when we were there, we watched that kicker for the Chicago Bears miss that game that would have pushed the game, missed that field goal that would have pushed the game off to overtime, and the whole place was just like, yeah, awesome. That's a whole ton of fun. And yeah, we'll really enjoy that. But I'm a little bit nervous about it because I'm quitting smoking, and that's my last week. That's my last big weekend, and I'm not going to try to quit smoking. I'm going to quit smoking, and that's my last hurrah. So when we go out there, we'll be in an atmosphere where people can smoke indoors, which it's one of the only places really in the world, not just in the country, but in the world where people can smoke indoors. So I'm going to smoke myself blue, and I will be a week into a prescription at that point that's supposed to make me stop. So that'll be interesting. That's my last hurrah. So look for me to have a Marlboro sticking out of my mouth a good percentage of the time. Because it's about time to say goodbye, John.
I understand. It's like you're going to prison, so you want to whoop it up one more time before you gotta go in, right?
Yeah. Except in this case, prison is basically just not dying as fast. So yeah, that's my objective, to not die as fast.
So what was some of this? What you were talking about? Some of the stories there's a couple stories that are on the field or on the court, and there's some that are off.
Well, yeah, I was talking the 4 biggest sports stories right now in the Denver market. 2 of them involve sports, and the other involve the fringes that surround sports. I feel like the dominance of the Colorado Avalanche is the number 1 story in sports right now. And I'm surprised really that it's not talked about more. But the Broncos reign supreme when it comes to most conversations in this town. But despite the injury plagued season that they have had, the Avalanche are in an absolute tear and have to be among the 5 teams in the NHL most favored to win Lord's Stanley Cup. So that's really exciting. I think the Avs are the number one story right now.
Well,
certainly, go ahead.
Well, let's start there. Part of the reason why they're probably not seemingly that big of a story is because they're not on television. And they were on TV on NBC Sports the other night because they're playing the Blackhawks. That's always a good draw. So they were on. It was really weird to be able to watch them on TV. They've had a couple games like that recently, but they're not on TV still, as we all know. That's, I think, the other story too that you were going to bring up. But
certainly one of the four. Yes,
it's one of the four. But that's part of it for the Avalanche is they're not on TV. So it's almost like they don't exist to a lot of people because they just can't turn the TV on.
Sure. And you and I, we're the kind of fans that will find a way to watch the game, but the average person is not going to do that. And certainly not somebody who moved to Denver last year from Michigan. They're not going to absorb it. They're not going to get involved. They're not going to get Avalanche fever because they can't just flip on a television set and see sports back. Come on over here and pay $6 a pint for beer and $18 for an order of fucking shitty nachos and watch the game. Oh, it's hey, we've got DirecTV. Well, I don't, and I'm not going to get it either. So I watch the illegal streams, and I'm sure you do too, and that's fine. We're the kind of fans that are going to do that, but most fans won't. I ask you this: did you watch the Altitude Digital Town Hall about a week and a half ago?
Well, before I answer that, I just want to go on the record and say that I do not watch the illegal streams because I respect billionaires. I think
I'm pro billionaire.
I think I've established that I respect billionaires, and I don't want to affect their bottom line. So I'm just sitting patiently waiting and not watching the games. That's my official stance. What was your other question? Did
you speaking of billionaires, did you watch the Altitude Town Hall about a week and a half ago?
I did not because I don't care about that. Now, I think that there's probably blame to go around on both sides, and it almost sounds like Altitude's probably getting a little bit dicked over on this. I would say maybe leans in their favor a little bit.
If their assertions are correct, if their assertions are true, which they clearly stated at their digital town hall, if their assertions are true, then absolutely they're getting fucked.
Yeah,
because what they claim is that they're trying to reduce the fees they pay to receive Altitude Sports by 70%. And if that's the case, I can certainly understand why they would want to dig their heels in, because their product is good. It's a good network with a lot of great personalities, and they've got a good product right now in the field with both the Avalanche and the Nuggets. So they've got a convincing case, if indeed what they say is true. But it's very difficult to take them or anybody else at face value, because people fucking lie so much and exaggerate so much. But like I say, if their claims that they made during that Altitude Town Hall are accurate, then I totally get where they're coming from. There's no way these should be getting beaten down by 70%.
But they also let all those contracts expire at the same time, which we covered on the podcast before. They kind of put themselves in this position. And I think they are getting kind of a raw deal, but they kind of allowed themselves to. I just think at some point, I don't know why they just don't say, okay, let's do a 5, however long, when the NBA goes on a little longer, let's do a thing into June or whenever. And just
sure, a 6-month deal or a 5-month deal. Why not?
A 6-month deal, and then we'll figure it out from there, just to get it back on TV, and then they can kind of have a little bit of breathing room, and then they can figure it out. Then they can kind of go back to negotiating, but they're not even doing that. At this point, they're probably not going to come back onto Comcast, and I've just accepted that at this point.
Yeah, I don't believe they will. This particular broadcast season, I don't think they will. Here's what I think is happening, and I actually have a very strong feeling, maybe even more than that this is what's going on. Their first sign up was DirecTV, which is property of AT&T. So AT&T is carrying Altitude, and they have a buddy relationship via DirecTV with Altitude. AT&T also owns AT&T Sportsnet, which broadcasts the Rockies games. So my feeling is the plan long-term is to merge the two and have a year-round regional sports network. And I would assume that would be branded Altitude because it's a stronger brand. And they will then approach the other carriers with this year-round product and negotiate based on the strength of that product rather than on what they have now, which is 6 months of dead air. And so does AT&T. So it only makes sense. And that's how the Yes Network, which is a comparable privately owned regional sports network in New York, is operated. They have the Yankees and all the other products in that market. And in the Chicago market, all of the sports are property of NBC Sports Chicago. So it makes sense to get everything under one umbrella and have 12 months of programming.
Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense. But if Kroenke owns the station, is it, do the Montforts feel like, oh, I don't want to get involved with that? They don't want to get in there.
The Montforts don't own those. I mean, they sold those broadcast rights to AT&T Sports. So I'm no attorney, but I would assume if there were a merger that broadcast right would be their property to move with.
Well, I mean, that they're getting in bed with Kroenke, who also owns LA teams. So there you go. Maybe there's some more exposure there for him. I don't know how that would work, but I would be great because then you could have one channel and the Avalanche and the Nuggets would maybe overlap. They would overlap into the Rockies, but there'd be something on all the time. There'd be a game on all the time. Actually,
and keep in mind, Altitude has Altitude too. There's a second signal. So they just have to decide. I mean, as it stands now, there are plenty of nights where both the Avalanche and the Nuggets play, and they do find a way to get that done. So I don't see any reason why that would be any different if the Colorado Rockies were.
Hey, they're not on now. So even a little bit would be fine, right? So a little bit would help.
I think it would be great. I will say this regarding, and we'll move on to other subjects, but regarding Altitude, first of all, I'm very biased because I'm such a big fan of so many of the people there. Scott Hastings, Mark Bozier, Vic Lombardi, Katie Wingy, who is absolutely fucking amazing. I mean, I just love some of the on-air talent and some of the off-air talent. I mean, the husband of one of the opponents you face this week in fantasy football is reliant on that network for an income. So I know so many people who are reliant on that network for an income. I am absolutely cheering for them. That said, the constant pleading in the arena on TV,
oh, yeah, it's terrible.
It is getting so pathetic. And I think somebody needs to say to them, guys, enough is enough. We fucking get it. Everybody knows what's going on. Stop being fucking bitches. And I think they are being bitches. Yeah. And I get it. They're passionate and they do love their workplace. That's one thing you have to take away from all of this as an observer and somebody who's, in my case, a small business person, in both of our cases, you see all this loyalty by the employees and how passionate they are about that company. And that's a selling point. But you gotta bring it down a notch because the perception that fans are starting to have is Stan could end this at any time. So shut the fuck up.
Yeah, that's one of the main things is I just can't, I can't get over that. Cause I think now at this point it's like, and like I said, I think they're mostly getting screwed, but at this point it's not going to change anything. If it had the first 2-3 weeks of the Avs season and the Nuggets season, I think they would have done it then. But now it's like it's a waste. They should just soldier on like they don't. They're not gonna expect it to happen. So,
no, I agree completely. Another story that I think is not receiving as much coverage as it should, because I think it's the number one story in Denver sports right now, is the Denver Broncos ownership situation. And I'm holding in my hand this week's copy of Westward. And right on the inside cover, right inside the cover on page, 6, an article which I've covered in highlighter by Mark Knudsen.
Okay, yeah.
About the Bolin Trust and the ownership situation and the plan for secession. And you really have to read this article. It's long. It's probably about 3,000 words.
Wow.
It covers a couple of huge pages, like a really small type. But the bottom line that Knudsen puts out there is that Joe Ellis is manipulating this for all he can.
Oh, yeah.
That the reason, one of the things he basically insinuates, if not states in this article, is the reason the trust favors Brittany Bolin as the controlling owner is that she's the youngest, and there's a rule in Pat Bolin's wishes that you can't become controlling owner until you're 40. So they're kicking that can down the road as far as they can, because so long as this trust is in charge, they determine their own salaries.
Sure.
They control the team. Now the NFL has a rule in place spelled out in this article. There, a non-owner of an NFL team can only operate it for up to 2 years. So, a trust, a placeholder, can only operate a team for up to 2 years. It's been 6. So the NFL is looking the other way, and the article also goes into great detail about Joe Ellis's relationship with the National Football League and all the people he knows, including the commissioner. And it basically, you can't come away with this not wanting to take a shower, because the way it's being manipulated is so dirty. And right now there is a lawsuit that will be coming to fore in 2020, in summer of 2020, where the older children, including Beth Bolin Wallace, are suing to have the current version of the trust, which was established in 2009, vacated in favor of an earlier trust that was established in 2002. And the thinking is that Annabelle Bolin, the second wife, and her kids manipulated Pat through Joe Ellis to get him to change the terms of the original trust in 2009 after he no longer had the capacity to know what he was fucking doing. So their assertion is that he was manipulated after the Alzheimer's took over, and that therefore the original trust in 2002, which named Beth Bolin Wallace as the more likely operating owner, comes into place. The third option is if neither of those trusts is honored, the NFL comes along and says, you have to sell the team. And I believe, based on what Knudsen said in this article, he says if the league could step in and somehow engineer the sale of the team to an outside party, there's apparently no consensus among shareholders who will be the controlling owner. And if the NFL sees a less than united front, it will push for a sale. So his assertion is that he believes, I think what I interpreted was, he believes that ultimately is what will happen, is the NFL will say, listen, newer generation Bolins, older generation Bolins, they're going to fight this out in court. Enough is enough. Sell the team and fight over the money. And that's what I'm hopeful. And I think most Broncos fans are hopeful that the team will be removed from the Bolin family altogether. We loved Pat. Pat was fantastic, but Pat's dead, and the people who are left holding the cards are a bunch of fucking assholes, and they hate each other, and they're going to war, and there's no reason the fans should be caught in the middle.
And we are caught in the middle because they've been fucking horrible for the last couple of years. And it's probably been a direct result of this ownership situation. But if they have to make a decision soon, and no one knew that, I think that's to put that pressure on them, on the NFL, to make them. Are you saying that because she's not quite 40, they're trying to wait till she's 40?
5 more years. She's 35. She's 35. Yeah. The trust wants to operate this team as long as they fucking possibly can, because
they can just sit there and rake in money for 5 more years and waiting for her to take over, right?
Yeah, here's another a little quick little outtake from the article. Currently, each member of the trust is being paid by the team for their services, as is Mary Kelly's husband, attorney Ron Riley. If the team were to be sold to an outside owner, the current shareholders would each profit handily, while the trustees would get nothing.
Yeah.
So they want to forego the sale, and by choosing Brittany as the heir apparent, they're putting off replacing control of the team as far as they possibly can. The Broncos are being fucking robbed blind by this Joe Ellis asshole and his cohorts, and it's pretty gross.
This is pretty much America, though, in a nutshell. It's kind of how it goes. Everyone just hangs on for dear life and rakes in as much cash as they can. It doesn't matter if the product is awful. Just keep raking in that money, baby. So the on the field antics are what we've been accustomed to seeing, not the behind the scenes stuff. And I think that the introduction of Drew Lock has been quite a revelation, don't you think, Colin?
I'm so excited about it, and I do think that's one of the top 4 stories, along with the Avalanche. That's the other story that is on the field, is the excitement around Drew Lock. I will see how things go against the Lions and then against the Raiders. And I think those 2 games will be very important in determining how I view the situation. But the idea of feeling like, holy shit, we've got a exciting and energetic and charismatic young homegrown dude we might be able to root for the next 15 years is absolutely fucking thrilling, and that's what we've been waiting for. And the kid's got a great smile. He's fired up. His parents are cool. He's not from a huge school. He's from Missouri. I think it's really, really exciting, and definitely one of the big stories in Denver sports. And I don't fault him one bit for what happened to them in Kansas City. Of course that was going to happen. It's December in Kansas City. That shit happened to the best Broncos teams, much less the worst ones.
Absolutely.
So we'll see. We'll see how things go. He's going to have 60 fucking degrees on Sunday at home against one of the worst defenses in the NFL. So hopefully he'll carve them up. And you can see the team rallying around him, though. He's energized not just the offense, but the defense and the special teams. All the players are super fired up to play with the guy. He's obviously a great teammate and a guy that can inspire a team around him. And the idea of not having to go into next year's draft wondering what they're going to do about quarterback again is really, really exciting, because maybe they can finally draft a left tackle and not have to start Garrett Bowles anymore.
Yeah, I've generally checked out on the Broncos. Once the Vance Joseph era was obviously going the way it has, I've strictly watched Red Zone. I really haven't watched a Bronco game, like turned it on and watched it for a while. I think
you are such a fake fan.
I'm a total fake fan. Yeah, but I can't watch it. It's terrible. And but then last couple of weeks that they were on Red Zone quite a bit, because he was lighting it up, not in Kansas City, but the other weeks. And so that was refreshing. I think
not only was he on Red Zone against Houston, he was the talk of Red Zone. Oh, yeah. Like, I would switch from the Broncos game over to Red Zone and be like, holy shit, look at this Drew Lock kid.
The last game I probably watched and was invested in was last season when they blew that game against the Chiefs. They were going to beat the Chiefs and they blew it. That infuriated me, and I haven't really watched a game since. I mean, I've seen them on Red Zone, but I haven't sat and watched an actual Bronco game. Maybe if they were on like Monday Night Football. I don't even know if they've been on Monday Night Football since. So that will definitely get me back if they can build around him and get some momentum with it. Get the defense back on track. If they can at least compete and get him in the groove, then I will certainly pay more attention to him. But they lost me over the last couple of years for sure.
I'll tell you what has been losing me, especially this last week, is spare me the talk of the Pro Bowl snubs. You're a 5-win fucking team. Oh my God. So-and-so. There's Cody Rourke on Twitter, big Broncos fan, and not really very balanced as a mentally. Ranting and raving about, Cortland Sutton was a Pro Bowl snub. Oh my God. Philip Lindsay is a Pro Bowl snub. No, you're in fucking. Don't bore me with individual accolades. Nobody watched fucking Pro Bowl anyway. It's a piece of shit. Yeah, I'll tell you another thing about the Broncos that I'm at, fuck that mode. I'm fucking sick of it, is Von Miller and his goddamn jersey exchanges at Pepsi Center with Kyle Kuzma of the Lakers. And fuck that, Von. What the hell are you doing, man? Cut it out. He is such a fucking traitor when it comes to other sports.
Hold on, though. Everybody does that, though, from soccer players to whoever. Like somebody, I think it was like Joe Mixon wanted a Tom Brady jersey. And he got it for when they just played after this week. So it's an understandable thing.
Okay, Joe Mangles, he plays for who the fuck cares? When you're talking about the LA Lakers and Von Miller's trading jerseys with the Lakers, fuck that. Go trade jerseys with fucking Jokic.
Oh, well, he probably already has. That's the whole thing. So,
yeah, probably so.
Hold on, I'm looking up Cortland. I'm looking up Cortland Sutton's his stats for this year. So he's got 63 receptions for over 1,000 yards, which is great. I mean, he hit over 1,000 yards. That's how many touchdowns? 6 touchdowns. So that's not bad. But that's not like
I'm looking for 15 touchdowns from a Pro Bowl wide receiver.
Yeah. I mean, let's see what Chris Godwin's numbers are. I'll have to look up.
He's got to have 13 to 15 touchdown receptions.
Yeah. So Chris Godwin, well, we have it here. This is the beauty of doing this. I can just look up stats. I'm just not very fast at it. Chris Godwin has 86 receptions for 1,333 yards and 9 touchdowns. Okay. He probably would have had more if he didn't get hurt last week. Still, the Broncos were terrible and the players were mediocre, and it wasn't their fault. Like Cortland Sutton had Flacco throwing to him for all. You didn't even hear Cortland Sutton's name until midway through the season when the other dude, I can't even think of his name, started playing. So it's respectable for what he had to work with, but it's not like overwhelming numbers.
That was Brandon Allen, by the way.
Was it Brandon Allen?
Yeah, it was Brandon Allen. I only remember it because the song Allentown came to mind.
Okay. Well, it's just they'll have their Pro Bowls. It's fine. You have to just understand if they weren't so awful, and let's say they were like in a wild card spot and they had played better and it did something with it, then I can see where you might be upset. But they didn't deserve it. I mean, maybe individually they did pretty well and he had a good season, but come on. It's just dumb. It's dumb. And then the people getting upset about it, that's what I can't stand, because you're like, okay, granted, maybe the player's disappointed, but you, the fan, this has no bearing on your life whatsoever. You're gonna get up tomorrow and you're gonna keep moving on. Cortland Sutton's gonna just get up and he's gonna keep doing what he's doing. So he maybe is a little ticked off about it, but you as a fan shouldn't be. And if you are, then you're a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, a lot of football fans are weirdos. So you wrote for Mile High Sports this week. It was cool to see you published again. It's a column that you've usually written for SouthStandDenver.com, and I can put my envy aside. Mile High Sports does a nice job, and boy, the magazine is awesome. It really is. That's a great product. The website it's okay. I think DNVR is doing a better job with the website, but the Mile High Sports magazine remains really awesome, and I'm glad they still print that fucker. Did they run it in the printed magazine too, or do you not know?
I don't think so, because unless they've got one coming out soon, because it was kind of
they just put a new one together. It's got Romy Bean in it. She's so hot.
She's nice.
Yeah.
And talented. Don't forget talented. Very good.
Really super talented. Now Romy Bean and Katie Wingy have the same hot, not hot thing going. I think we talked about this on the show when Nate Lundy was in here. They've got this shucks hotness. I love it. I love shucks hot. It's the best.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm not really hot. I'm just here to talk about sports and
Yeah, look at all the silly faces I make
and do my thing for sports. But then it's kind of like, but deep down I'm hot, so don't forget it.
You know it, and I know it.
Yeah, and that's hey, it works, right? But no, they're good. No, it was a thing that because Lundy had asked me if I want to do something, and it wasn't something I'd done before, and I happened to look up some stuff, some stupid products, and I just kind of threw it together, and he was like, I'll do it. And then he like put it on there so fast, like that would have taken me like all day to put those pictures out. And I was like, hey, it's got all these pictures and you kind of need to do this. So it's kind of a pain. He's like, oh, okay, I'm posting it right now. And I was like, all right, that's cool. Faster than I would have done it. So, but no, that's cool. Yeah, it's nice. Nice to have
I'm looking forward to your who to root for in the Super Bowl when you just don't care.
Oh yeah, I got to do that.
That's always a good one.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things. I don't know. It's hard to write. And we were trying to do this the other night, and it was like, I got home and I was just exhausted. I was just like, oh my God, I can't do it. Because usually when we do the podcast, I have a little bit of time to kind of like, eat, settle in, and go down there. I'll drink like a coffee, and you kind of get jazzed because you have to go to it. But sitting at home, I'm immediately tired, and I was like, oh, I just can't do it. And the same thing with writing, because you have to, to write, you have to like kind of be wide awake. And, we've talked about documented the caffeine struggles. I used to just like at night, just drink caffeine, and I'd sit and write, and then I could still go to bed, but I can't do that anymore. So it's one of those things.
It is crazy. And, I'm sure our regulars, the 4 of them that are left, hi, Marcelo, still think about how infrequently we've been posting podcasts. And it is amazing as I would think my kids are getting older. Like my son is 18. He's very close to moving out of the house. They're much less responsibility than they once were. I don't have that excuse anymore. But I'm in order to record a regular hour and a half long podcast, I feel obligated to be prepared. I got to spend a good portion of the day being ready and writing material. And then I got to be on my game. I got to be up, and I've got to be sharp and awake and ready to go. And it's harder and harder and harder as the years go by. But that said, it's a great show, and we'll continue to do it as often as we can.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like you bring that up. I remember when we started this, and my kids were much younger. They were like real little. I think we started it when one of them was he was real little, like he was almost like a year old or so. And I, that was like, I was all for it, had all the energy in the world. Now, like, I don't even know where they are. They're somewhere in the house and doing something. And, but I'm just like, oh, so tired.
I just want to watch some Netflix.
Yeah. I just want to watch some Netflix, go to sleep.
Have you been watching that Don't Fuck with Cats shit? Oh my God.
What is it?
Oh my God. It's a new Netflix mini series. It just came. It's only 3 episodes long. It's what they call a limited series. And it's called Don't Fuck with Cats. And it's about this dude who posted videos of himself on the internet murdering cats.
Oh,
and people and all these people that formed a coalition to find him and figure out who the fuck he was and catch him. But before they did, he moved on to people.
Oh, God, of course. Yeah.
Holy shit, dude, it's intense. It's like, yeah, don't watch it.
No,
don't watch it. Don't watch it. Now I got to finish it now. I started, but yeah, don't start. It's like smoking. Just don't start. Kids don't start.
What we've been watching here is we discovered this new channel, and it's called like Family Entertainment TV, FETV. And all they show is like late 70s, early 80s TV shows. So we've been watching nothing but Heart to Heart and Love.
Oh, no.
Yeah, just watching tons of that, man. It's so awesome. And then after that, it'll be TJ Hooker. A lot of TJ Hooker going on. So, yeah, that's what I've been watching. So I haven't watched anything new. I've been watching things from 1980 with Jonathan Hart. Yeah, it's pretty
okay, cool. Boomer.
Yeah, no shit. All right, what else before we wrap it up?
Dude, we hit every single fucking bullet point on this list. I think that went swimmingly.
Good. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that went really well.
Now,
so let's shut this fucking thing down and go home.
I lost you a couple times.
I lost you a couple of times
too. Did you? Yeah. So I don't know if that'll show up in the thing. We'll find out, I guess. Maybe someone will tell us. See, now we got some people watching. So now we're gonna sign off, of course. So but
thanks for watching, folks.
Thanks for watching, everybody. But no, just to recap about the fantasy, my fantasy stuff, my fantasy life. At one point, our friend Snoop Cow, he was lamenting that I was doing so well, and he said that he would renounce his faith in God if I won the league. And he's a mere
that's all he has to do is renounce his faith in God.
Yeah, that's all he's got to do. So he said he would. So he would do that. So I told Jennifer, who I'm playing in the finals. I said, look, that's what I'm playing for. Okay, just so you know, that's what I'm playing for. I'm playing for him to renounce his faith in God. And
her people murdered Jesus, so I'm sure she has no problem.
She didn't care. She's like, okay, that's fine. So, well, it's just good to be in the money, and I'm in the money. And it's two of those other leagues aren't for money, but two of them are. And you know what? You get into the money in the finals, and you're kind of like, well, I'd love to win. It's great, but at least I got that sweet, sweet money coming, right?
Absolutely. As we will in Las Vegas, I intend to crush the book. I'm going to be in the high roller suite by the time we leave town.
Oh, good. That's good. That's good to know. So, well, awesome. I'm sure that will probably be the next time I'll see you, maybe, unless we do.
Probably so. Yeah, probably so.
Cool.
So big shout out to Sobo Liquors down there, right near the intersection of Evans and Broadway. Go see Mark Rycroft. He's there. He'll sign autographs. He'll pose for selfies with you as you purchase your holiday spirits. Great selections of wine, spirits, and microbrews, and a drive-through window for you super drunks. So please pay Sobo Liquors a visit. And if you'd kindly mention that you heard about them right here on the South Stands, we'd be most grateful for that.
Absolutely. And then hopefully soon we'll get back in the studio and we can all be together again. Maybe Scott will be around. Maybe he can do one with us too. So
yeah. Maybe he'll be through making millions for a minute and a half to take a break. But no, he's also a Nugget season ticket holder. So he's down at the Can a whole lot, and hopefully he's enjoying tonight's game.
Good. That's awesome. Okay. Well, I think we covered it, and that's good stuff. And maybe we'll get back on it soon. So until next time, this has been the South Stand Supplemental. And until next time, adios.
We love you, Denver.